next we will start off
Finance.
with vehicle replacement. Is that
It's under finance.
what Director Thompson will address?
Yes.
Okay. Linda, you're on.
Okay, I'll call to order the finance committee. Let the record show all present. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from Tuesday, September 20th, 2022. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Finance and bills. I just had a couple questions, but I'm going to check with Glenn's and get back to you. Anybody else have any questions about finance? Any of our bills? Okay. Unfinished business. Don't believe we have any. New referrals for consideration. We'll jump right into the vehicle replacement, and we'll have Director Thompson.
All right, good evening. So I wanted to go over with you the status of our vehicle replacements, where we're at and what we need. Right now, we developed for this year, we were looking at 22 vehicles. I think you're all aware of the problem getting vehicles these days, the supply chain and whatnot. Anything we order now will be 18 months out. Tough to get them, a lot of these windows have closed. We had F-150s on here, and all of those are now closed, so we can't get those till the next year buying cycle. And the 250s are, it either is going to close today or tomorrow, depending on demand, so we may even miss out on those. But what we need here is to get through the remainder of what's still available. 15 vehicles that we need to replace comes to a total of $693,000. They need to be replaced because they're falling apart, some of them are safety issues, and they're just plain rotting away. If we commit to doing this, we have 18 months to pay, because it's payment on delivery. We looked at lease programs. With the lease programs, at the end of the day, we don't own the vehicle, we have to buy it out, and we're paying more. We're just getting killed on there. And the maintenance, we're still responsible for, so it really doesn't seem to be a gain there. So I guess what I'm asking you is if we could get authorization to go ahead and start ordering these. If we don't order them, we're not going to get them. And we don't have to pay yet, but I don't want to order them without authorization saying we're going to be able to pay for these in 18 months.
Yeah, I think that's the point where we're at. And if we don't start ordering them, it's just gonna get longer and longer, getting out. So we're seeking permission tonight from the council to order vehicles, and then we can get our financing in place. We're looking, the last we heard was 12 to 18 months out for getting the vehicles. So.
Are you looking to bond these or purchase?
That has been an option. We can bond for the entire amount, and we'll have the money available when the vehicles come in, or we can put financing in place as the vehicles come in. I think the more prudent thing to do may be bond, and then we have the money in place when the vehicles come in.
So we're going to bond for 10 years for vehicles like that last for 5 or 3 or 2. I don't know. How long will these? When was the last time we bought them? Also, why are we not doing this in fleet management? Like, since when do we need to buy an entire department worth of vehicles? I thought we were doing everything like a little bit here, a little bit there.
Well, we have been doing that, but we're at a point now where we have a large number of vehicles that need to be replaced. We've been talking about this in fleet management for probably 6 months now, 8 months longer, and trying to figure out where we're going to go. We did start to work with Enterprise, but now Enterprise can't get vehicles. So we're just trying to find a way that we can get in the pipeline to get our vehicles ordered, and so we can have our vehicles. We're starting to spend a tremendous amount of money on repairing these vehicles as we go. We just had to put $30,000 into a bed for one of our dumps because we need it. So we can't get it right now. I think as you've seen, we're still waiting on the back end that we ordered 2 years ago. It's going on 2 years, somewhere in that. We're still waiting on the fire truck. That's supposedly have it, but that was almost a 2-year process getting that in place. So we need vehicles. We're hoping that that you will authorize us to start to get in the pipeline, and then we can
here, they're 10 to 12 years old, the ones we're looking.
Do I have that list? I haven't seen that. Did I
No,
get?
this is my list. of my
Oh, okay,
vehicles.
I don't know.
They're 10 to 12 years old.
Okay,
We've got a 2009 on here, we got 2010, there's quite, these are the older ones we're looking to replace.
The lists have been provided by Fleet Management and the Fleet, minutes from Fleet, that's been going out to everybody.
how many of them are more than 10 years old on the list?
On this list here, okay, there's 11, 9, 9, 12, 9. More than 10 years, you said?
Well, yeah, I guess I was trying to get a vibe for, how many are on the list even?
There's 22 on the list, but only 15 will be available now, so we've already lost, I'm sorry, we've lost 5, so 17 will be available. Out of those, I'm looking here, the newest one on here was, and this is, they're already in the pipeline for the police cars, but they're pretty, they're used hard. If you take the police cars out, I think the newest one on here is 8 years old.
Wait, so the police cars are in there too?
No, they're already ordered, they're on my list.
Fine, but in the 22 vehicles,
Those are part of the 22, yes.
so that's all the city vehicles? Police cars,
Yes.
the codes truck,
Yes, this is codes, this is the shops, this is the fire department, we order for the police. The police are already taken care of, they should be here in a couple months.
okay. So the $693,000, that would be to replace every vehicle in our fleet?
No, that's all the ones on this list, excluding the fire department and the ones we can't order.
There should be just
This is the
15.
list that,
Oh,
that
Yeah,
you-
mine's modified slightly to reflect the ones we've already missed, so you don't have that.
So the 15 are for, the 15 is gonna be the 693K.
17, yes, 17.
17 vehicles, okay.
That's the 693,000.
Okay, and then the other thing is, this has been brought to us before, and I remember the term leasing being used, and when it was explained to us, leasing wasn't what we consider the traditional leasing, what I've done for years. It's more or less a rent to own. I thought it was, once we got to end of a contract, something like that, the vehicle belonged to us.
There's different options, but it's kind of a moot point now because the companies don't have them.
Okay,
They don't even have them.
So what do they tell you? What is the feedback that Enterprise says? So they just closed up shop, they don't have their
No,
leasing
you
program
program list
anymore?
and you wait as long as, if we bought them ourselves or longer.
Well, I mean, that's my question is, from a financing standpoint, if it's 18 months for us, or it's 18 months for them, but from a budgetary standpoint, it makes more sense to lease per their program, I guess.
Yeah, if that was the case, but I look at the numbers here. If you look at what it's gonna cost us, like here's a Ford Explorer, it was $831 a month for 60 months. When we looked at our base price to buy it, it was much cheaper. If this was a deal, the leasing companies would be out of business. I mean, they're obviously there to make money, they're making money on us, all we're doing is, at the end of the thing, we still have to buy it out. So the numbers add up probably 20% above the base price, and then we've gotta buy it.
that's a traditional lease.
Yes.
So now that is a traditional lease? Because that's the way a traditional lease works, is you buy it out at the
This-
end.
What we got from Enterprise is the exact same thing.
That's not the way it was explained.
Now we have the muni
I
lease,
gotta
it's
correct-
different, there's
I
the
gotta
muni
make a-
lease.
I gotta make a correction.
Mhm.
Okay, with the enterprise leases, at the end, we're supposed to be in a cycle where after cars get to a certain point, enterprise will replace those cars. We'll pay the same amount, they'll take the equity and what they sell that vehicle for, and that is applied against our lease. Okay, we're on that with 6 police cars, right? All right, but moving forward, enterprise can't get vehicles. Okay, that they can put into these long-term leasing and that. I'll give you an example, Ron, what was the place in Buffalo that had?
DeLacy Ford.
What was it?
DeLacy Ford.
DeLacy Ford. They had, I don't know, X number of vehicles. Enterprise tried to get a couple from them, they wouldn't sell them to Enterprise. So that's why we ordered them direct, and now we're going through GM, is it GM leasing?
Ford.
Ford leasing, yeah.
Yeah, there's a municipal leasing program, it only addresses some of what we need. And we do have, that is part of the pricing on this list that I have. That 693 includes that muni program for
So the two
8 of
Explorers.
them plus the police cars.
Yeah, so I do have 2 Explorers on that list that aren't part of the fleet. It's the investigator's vehicle, which is a 2013, that for traveling, and, it's not just a car that I use, the whole department uses it. So with, Enterprise, it was really tough trying to get an Explorer. The only thing that got me wrong, the only other one they could find was a hybrid. Mark didn't want to get a hybrid, it was $3,000 more. At the end of the municipal leasing through Ford is $3,000 cheaper than to lease through Enterprise. We own it for $1 at the end of the lease.
And that was one of my other questions, because everything you guys have mentioned so far has been a Ford. And I know with the police cars, there's usually 2 or 3 traditional models that they use, but when it comes to a city vehicle, we're not limited to a make. So I know I've read the minutes on the fleet, and there's been talk of going the electrical route, but there's also been pushback of waiting until technology has developed more. I mean, you're starting to see Mercedes-Benz and Audi and all these other makers create electric vehicles. So the state is supposed to be moving forward in what, 2035? I mean, at what point do we start saying, hey, maybe out of the 17, if we can't get a Ford, maybe we can get 2 or 3 hybrids, maybe 2 or 3 electric cars or something in a spot where they would qualify. You know, maybe not a police car or something like that.
Right, obviously
you know,
not
for codes and
a
stuff
dump
like that.
truck, because that's not there yet, but a sedan for codes, sure,
Mhm.
good down the road.
But
I think we also don't have a choice necessarily, those are on state bid, right, aren't they? Like,
Well-
we're not getting Fords just because we like them, right, like, you go in the marketplace, what's that?
Usually it's like GMC and
I don't know, I know that in years past, it's been like, well, this year they're GMCs, and next year they're all Fords, and
Yeah, it can change.
and the
Now,
other thing,
there's also, we've had 2 buying cycles in the past, May through July and then August through November. That's gone now, it'll only be in the fall for these prices, so we're locked into once a year. It's just how they do it this time, the price breaks for state bid are gone. Used to be 25%, that's no more.
right. You know, the other thing, and Vern touched on a good point, is it'd be great to do the hybrids, but we don't have the infrastructure for it. That's a whole other grant and, you know, the expense. So, but we have talked about this for months in fleet management, and Mark keeps telling us, and he's been telling us it's 12 to 18 months out for getting vehicles. So this is something that we've been talking about, and I think, the vehicles that are 8, 10, 12 years old truly do need replaced. And I think, as Mr. Thompson pointed out, we're not gonna be getting these vehicles for at least 12 to 18 months, so we can look at different alternatives for financing. Anybody else? John?
What portion, Robert, would you say 17 vehicles makes up of our entire fleet? Roughly? A third?
I honestly don't have that number, so I can guess.
Yeah. I'm just,
Maybe, Mayor, I can guess.
even a ballpark, is it half? Is it like a 10%? Like, I'm sure it's not that.
No, it's not, it would be 10%.
Right, we don't have 300 vehicles.
No.
No, for some reason, 50-some vehicles are sticking in my mind. I can't say that.
Yeah.
A third?
yeah,
But,
yeah,
with everything, with, you know, with all the tractors, with all the.
Sure.
Everything, I think, right around that area.
I'm just, you know, I'm a little bit on the fence here. I appreciate and totally understand the need to replace these vehicles. I know we've gotten our use out of them. But at the same time, and it's, you know, it's great that conversations happened in fleet management for 6 months or 12 months or whatever, but ultimately it falls on us now to make the decision how to pay $700,000 for 17 vehicles. And my concern is what Alderman Robinson brought up. Given the price of fuel, given the way everything's going, I understand no matter what type of vehicle you're looking at, there's a long lead time on it. I guess why wouldn't we be looking at whatever vehicles do meet the possibility of going to an electric or a hybrid vehicle, why would we not be willing to consider that? At what point in time, you know, eventually it's gonna happen. And I guess, you know, there's, with all the money that's out there right now, in terms of credits and so on and so forth, what are other municipalities doing, in regards to this? Waiting for what?
Waiting for infrastructure, everyone's kind of dragging their feet on this, waiting to see if it's gonna move. There isn't any infrastructure out there yet.
I'm inclined to agree with that. I don't think we're anywhere near close to, like, we wanna buy an electric vehicle or a hybrid for, brownie points with the green energy crowd, that's fine, but that's all it is at this point. I mean,
The infrastructure's not there.
but yeah, we don't even have municipal charging stations. Why would we think about buying a Tesla? What kind of idiots would we look like doing that at this point in the stage, right, in that lifespan?
Paul, my wife's vehicle, our Toyotas now, most of them are hybrid.
Which is-
We don't have to plug it in.
No, it's
Right.
a gas
It
electric.
gets, exactly.
Yeah.
So why can we not, why are we not?
Oh, I'm in favor of that. I'm talking about
40 miles to the
I was
gallon.
thinking you were talking about the EV.
like
Yeah,
a.
I mean, whatever's out there, I don't know.
There's a difference though.
Yeah.
Like,
Are those possibilities within the context of, you know, you got vehicles that,
Availability to tell you,
Right.
I'm telling you, these other trucks are 18 months out. I highly doubt there's an F-550.
no, and I'm not talking about
Well,
do
that's
you have
half.
do you have any cars? They're all trucks, there's
About
no
half,
cars?
half and half.
Okay, so there are cars
Well-
on there.
There's cars and there's vans and then there's heavy trucks.
Okay, well,
It's not out of the question to look at a hybrid. Right now, they're more expensive.
right.
But it's not out of the question that in this search for vehicles, it's not, I mean, for our vehicles that, stay mainly in the city or.
Right.
It's not out of the question to ask for, we just need the price to be more.
I want to chime back in for a second on a couple of things. Just recently, I was looking for a vehicle myself, work vehicle. This is through work, so they have the same leasing programs that they have here with the city. And when I was looking at our fleet website, the Equinox and the electric vehicle, and I can't remember which one it was, they were pretty much the same price. They were within $2-3 grand. Then after that was the Dodge Ram, because we're on Dodges right now. And then there was the GMC, I think Canyon, was one of the vehicles that were available. As far as the technology being there, I have to disagree. In this area, the technology isn't here. The technology is there, it's been there. I just recently drove down the highway I was heading east, and a police car drove by, and it was a Tesla. And of course, I thought it was a fake car or whatever. The car was nice looking. I look at the side of the car, the city logo was on there. So I Googled the city logo, and sure enough, it's a small town similar to Olean. So it's possible that this could be done. We're behind 8 ball in that regard. But I mean, even though we applied for the grants and we weren't given, you know, I'm not saying go out and just start purchasing a bunch of vehicles and not have the infrastructure here. What I'm saying is, you know, if there is a possibility that we could, you know, say suffice out of the 17, if we can get at least 5 going right now that were hybrids at least, then that would be, you know, excellent. In my book, you're talking a third of the vehicles there. And then at the other 12, if we can look at ordering those or getting something going so that we can start rotating these vehicles out and getting some type of plan together where these vehicles can be rotated on a, I don't know, 7-10 year basis, I guess, if that's how long they're going. That would be nice.
And as the mayor said, we can certainly, but we would need authorization to move ahead, otherwise we're gonna go back and look and they're gonna be gone.
Yeah, and, you know, talking about hybrids, we have one, and when we travel, we get 46, 48 miles per gallon, so they are efficient, and you don't have to plug them in, like John was saying.
No, you don't.
Those would be the vehicles that, they would be the smaller vehicles, but I think, part of the urgency is the bigger vehicles for the city that are rusting out, that have, you know, expended their life expectancy.
So I was going back, kind of looking at July minutes from fleet management, and with, you know, in there it was noted, the city was told we needed to budget for at least the smaller vehicles. And I'm looking to say, we're talking about doing a bond, but I mean, I feel like this needs to be part of our annual budgeting process to do a couple at a time versus, you know, coming forward and saying, well, okay, we need to find $700,000. I mean, not saying we don't need to replace the vehicles, but is there a way to, through fleet management or something, to look at and say, well, okay, can we do 4 a year or something so that we can stay current and not get to the point where vehicles are, you know, where they're not maybe even close to being saved?
I would agree, I think we need to budget every year, but we also still need to get these ones up. If we start doing 4 of these a year, we're.
Right, no, I
I
get
agree
that.
with you.
I just mean that, you know,
100%
because,
agree with that.
Vehicles are groceries, right? They're not, you don't pay for groceries with your credit card, right? Or bond for them. We should be doing it every year. And we're gonna pay $800,000, $700,000 in bond for this. And before we even have this bond paid off, we're gonna have to do another bond for the next 13 or 17 or whatever vehicles that need to be replaced, you know, 2 years from now. It's just,
Well, if those of you who, when we started with the police vehicles, that's what the idea was, that we would start to include payments in the budget. And like I said, we're up to 6 police vehicles now with Enterprise. But then, you know, this crunch hit with not being able to get vehicles and all that. So now I think we are on a movement to start to work with Enterprise for more vehicles in our fleet. And then that would be included in the budget. But we got a little bit of a setback right now. So, you know, we can move towards that, but that's 4 vehicles a year. You know, our budget is pretty tight. And that means we're gonna have to have cuts somewhere else.
Well, whether we bond for this, that's still gonna be payment that we gotta add to our budget, right? So,
And some of it'll be, you know, with some of these vehicles are for water and sewer, some of these vehicles are, you know, so yes, we will have to budget it, but budgeting that bond payment is probably a little easier than, you know, paying for 4 vehicles a year, especially when you're looking at the larger ones that we're gonna need, so.
I just have a question too. I thought we were just gonna talk about this tonight, I didn't know you were gonna ask for financing. But just briefly, this is the first time I saw that list too. There's some SUVs that are gonna get purchased and they're all-wheel drives. And an all-wheel drive vehicle versus a front-wheel drive is about $3,000 more per vehicle. And plus the maintenance of it, if you need to replace a tire on an all-wheel vehicle, you gotta replace all 4 versus a front-wheel drive, you may have to replace 2. So for this cost effectiveness, why are we going with all-wheel drive versus a city vehicle?
I think you have the current list in front of you there, but I believe those were the fire vehicles. And I wouldn't wanna hamper them and take that option away if they've gotta get to somewhere. And we do have 4x4s up on the trucks, but they need to deliver plow trucks and such, so. We don't really have them on the passenger vehicles, and they're not intended for like me or Coes or May to run around in 4x4s. It was really for the chief here to get to the scene and respond.
so just, and I do have questions, that maybe could be, you know, taken offline about some specific things, but, you know, the community, I don't know what department community is, but currently it's a Ford Fusion going up to a 2022 Ford Explorer for $41,000.
That's the vehicle that everybody uses, it's based out of the mayor's office, that's what everybody uses for travel and stuff. And it's pretty tight, if you put 4 people in that Fusion, you have to go anywhere, so.
What about passenger van, right? I mean, a Dodge, they're not cheap.
The vans, no, those are pretty pricey these days.
Well, for 30, I mean, again, and I'm not gonna micromanage the process. I'm gonna just say we bought a lower LE model Toyota Sienna hybrid. It gets 35 miles to the gallon. It was $36,000. You can sit 9 people in it comfortably, I mean, but I know there's a long lead time on those too. I'm just,
That's one of the vehicles that could be the hybrid.
right, I mean, that could be a hybrid vehicle, so when you go to, when, you know, people go to conferences, you drive around town. So, you know, it's, although we appreciate, and we recognize the state of urgency, it's always difficult for us to just, absorb new information and say, yeah, go do it, especially when there's $700,000 connected to this. Personally, I'll make this statement. I understand and prioritize for me is the work vehicles that you say are still available, right?
Yeah, so they will, well, it may not be this time tomorrow because the window is closed from here, so they may have been gone. And that's 444,000 of that, so this might be a good point tomorrow.
You know, those, to me, those are, to maintain city operations, those are primary, right? The Ford F-250s, you know, the filtration plant, the sewage plant, streets, like, they need trucks. So, you know, I don't know what the hell we would do for a cheaper alternative there, other than to bite the bullet, and so I'm good with like half this list. The other half, I guess the more passenger vehicles, are there hybrid or alternatives, more economical, that we could look at? That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, the other thing, and I think the mayor touched on it, as John pointed out, the work trucks, you know, for water, sewer, streets. Remember, we can take the price of that, it's a third, because we're gonna use different departments. So that has an impact on how we finance it and how we pay for it.
That's a good point, Linda. You know, some of the, I guess I would like to hear from Len's too, as far as, you know, and I understand we would have time to put this in place, and so I guess that's a valid point. We can kind of strategize how we want to go forward with financing them, but paying for them. Do we pay half out of fund balance and, you know, whatever? But, well, like I said, I get it, we need to have those trucks, so I guess I would prioritize that.
I don't want to belabor this conversation any longer than we have to, but if it's a water department truck, if it's a truck for the water department, we can pay for it 100% out of water department funds, right? We don't have to do the third. And both of those water and sewer fund balances are very healthy.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
for some vehicles, and we talked about this in fleet, do get used in different departments. That's what I was referring to.
oh, yeah, no, I understand.
But maybe what I'm hearing the council is looking at is maybe prioritizing that list and coming back with a figure that's more needed right now.
I know they're all needed, I don't want to minimize
Maybe
that.
some
Okay, but I do understand, and I love Paul's idea, you know, if there are vehicles that we could help to segregate that list and say, listen, these 5 vehicles are needed for the water filtration plant, we've got this much in the fund balance, that's how we're gonna pay for that out of, you know, the water filtration fund. You know, these 3 are for sewer, here's the fund balance. You know, so then at the end of the day, we're not looking at $700,000 hitting the general fund. I'd like to see how these are broken out by fund balances.
Yeah, I'd like that list of which ones we'd have to spread out, we could spread out over all 3, which is, you know, compared to which ones would just be
Yeah.
individual departments, you know.
Is that something that you can get back to us?
Sure.
Probably, if you could say within the next week, before next week's meeting, send us an email and kind of prioritize those different departments and priorities, actually.
So going back to July, if that's the same thing, there's 2 for sewer, 2 for sewer maintenance, and I saw one other for, there was one other. So is that the list, you know, there's 2 vehicles for filtration, 2 for distribution, 2 for sewer, 1 for sewer maintenance. Is that the list that we're talking about?
Yes.
Yes.
So it does look like there is a number that would be under.
And you should all have that list, it's in the fleet minutes, so we should all have that.
That's the list I'm working off. The only thing I have on here that's different is I've updated it based on what we've already missed the deadline for.
Okay.
But that is the list, so it is on there too. Like the trucks that we're in danger of losing, there's 1 filtration and 3 in sewer.
Just buy those, do them, like, yes.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. So we're in
Then
danger
you-
of losing 5 vehicles?
Well, no, if we have, there's 8 trucks on here that the window's probably closing. 4 of them are streets and parks, and 4 of them are water and sewer. And those are the ones that were really in jeopardy here.
I feel like I'm at the car dealership, like, I got another buyer who wants this.
What deadline may be due, but they've been reported through fleet, so,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it's been quite a while.
What is the deadline again, Robert? Is it just to get them on a certain time? or
Yes,
is it
if you
to
don't,
Just to get into the spool, but get them
Get
Yeah.
into
Just to get them on a delivered date?
Yeah.
That's what it is? Okay.
There's like a queue, like we gotta get into the queue.
Oh, yeah, and we didn't get in for the
Yeah,
ones that
that's-
we lost
yeah.
those.
Yeah,
So-
it's sort of what the fire truck, you know, we ordered it, what, how long ago?
Yeah, with the back truck, we're working at the same time.
Yeah.
Right,
If we don't get in that queue,
Almost
they're gonna be
2 years.
gone, they won't be available, and that's what the deadline we're up against.
Back truck, we're looking at least another, what do we say, a year?
It's
So-
crazy.
Am I hearing that there's 4 for sewer, so that could come out of sewer balance? Is that what I'm hearing? Because then that would leave us 4?
Yeah, there's a water filtration, 2 sewer, and 1 sewer maintenance. Then we have a streets, a garage, and 2 parks, those are the critical trucks.
so the street, and the streets and the parks, those are ones we could either take out of fund balance or bond for, and the others could count sewer and water.
That seems like a reasonable split. I would say just go ahead and get those ones then. If we're talking about 8 trucks that are critical, I mean, I'm comfortable going in the queue, and it sounds like half of them we could take out of probably water, half of them sewer, and then the other ones are general municipal. So I
And then we
think
can explore the other options
Yeah.
that are non,
Yeah.
truck related.
if that's a compromise of some sort, I'm comfortable with.
Everybody else comfortable?
Yep, comfortable.
I'm good.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Any other questions for finance? Committee reports, we have none, and if anyone is fine with that, I'll make a motion to adjourn in a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Just so you guys know, at some point here in the next few minutes, I'm gonna have to get up and leave, I gotta go get my kid.
Robert has to leave.
Then why don't we go ahead and jump into strategic planning? I'll call to order strategic planning for Tuesday, October 18th, 2022. Let the record show that all aldermen are present. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the previous committee meeting. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Robinson, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Unfinished business is none. We've got some new referrals for consideration. PL 105-22 by Mayor Aleo to authorize the mayor to execute a change order agreement with Clark Patterson Lee for engineering and design services for South Union Street streetscape project. Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, this is, again, we don't have the information from Clark Patterson Lee that we need, so I request that we move this to the next strategic planning meeting.
Okay. I'll make a motion to postpone PL 105-22 till the next strategic planning meeting. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Robinson, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Next is Warvet Splash Work, the landscaping design. So I apologize, last time I had this on the agenda, I forgot my material at home. But this is what Clark Patterson Lee and their landscape architect came up with. I've given everyone a handout, but I do have a PDF pulled up that they provided the city. And overall, really the long story short of it is that each plant that they've identified is fit for our zone. And it provides for bloom time, color, they take everything into consideration as far as sunlight and water needed and maintenance. And that was one of the key communications the mayor and I provided with Vortex and with Clark Patterson Lee was, we don't want a ton of maintenance when it comes to landscaping, but at the same time, I think, so you can see a lot of these are perennials from hydrangea and so on. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up what the handout you've all received, and I'll go into more of the detail of the individual plants. But if vibrant colors, really on the three sides of the splash park, had more vets. And something that really would almost create a nice oasis feeling for those who are visiting the splash park and, Alderman Witt.
Just before we go on.
Yeah.
The entrance of it, is it at the top?
Yeah, that's the building. The
Okay.
building up here is at the top. That's correct. Yep, so this would be like if we were looking at it right from the street. Other questions?
John, something that I've been thinking about, just dawned on me today when I saw this, is what the fence is gonna be like. I can't remember if we've touched on it at all, if the fence that's there is completely tore down, if we're reusing it.
Mayor, you recall, I thought they were replacing the fencing.
I think the fencing's gonna have to be replaced, yes.
Yeah, and I believe it was still up to debate whether or not those big bollards or ballards or whatever those big round columns are, whether those stay or go, would ultimately be, I think, still up to us.
I mean, I have a feeling we'd have a hard time working around it. I mean, my thought is that it doesn't fit with what we're doing.
Okay.
I would think a somewhat shorter, even if it's simple, just black painted chain link fence, but
Okay.
something new.
Yep. So, cleaner looking fence is what you're talking about?
You know, I know the height of that fence has probably kept people out of the pool area.
Oh, sure.
So there's a height that you probably want to keep that, but, you know, you don't want it to feel like
A
it's a
prison.
prison.
Yeah, well said.
They don't want to barbed wire.
So keep the barbed wire.
I would, you know, people's pools, I think 6 foot is your standard. Granted, somebody can hop that pretty easy, but, or maybe there's an easy way to deter that, or, you know.
I mean, but we don't have to worry about somebody drowning, right? Like,
Right.
would be.
No, that's true. Yeah, I think the only problem I have to think is how comfortable are we that people won't go in and vandalize? But I wouldn't want to make the choice of a big ugly fence because we're worried about vandalism.
But I think we're also, in there with the cameras.
Yeah, I mean, if we've got it covered,
Yeah.
yeah,
I remind you though, if you go look at Bradford,
then I guess now my mind wants to say that we have a fence all.
I definitely want to fence.
Even the location, Jason, I think it was only maybe a 5-foot fence. They did have like exactly what you were talking about, a black metal fence, tasteful, around the site that in West Bloomfield. So they did even have a very nice, metal fence around that location. So I mean, we could look at something like that.
You gotta have, we need a fence in order to control the in and out.
Oh, that's true, that's true.
Yeah, I don't disagree. It's just we want it to be
We're charging, we can.
tasteful. The only other thing that I would add when it comes to the planting plan, I mean, I used to do this kind of work, but this was not my forte, so. But what I do know is, and Mayor would probably know better, if there is someone in the city that is good at this sort of thing and would review it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes this gets just kind of thrown together by an engineer, and you can see the reason it caught my eye is a statement about it being picked from a list on the internet.
Yeah.
But someone who knows plants and gardens
Maybe.
can do a lot better.
That's a great idea. Maybe like John Malecki and that crew would be able to look at this bill.
Yeah.
Because I'm, so like, here's, a further detail, Jason, about the different species, and this means nothing to me, right? Like all these different, I know what an arborvitae is. A lot of greenery, spruces, but different shrubs and so on.
I mean, I know how it gets done because I was asked to do these as part of my job, but I was horrible at it as far as it being a truly good product. But you can do a good job throwing something together. It's not beautiful and functional in the field.
You'd be a nice addition to our beautification.
Sounds like a volunteer.
As long as there's somebody on there that knows plants.
There is, we have Pat Driscoll, we have John Malecki, who is fantastic
long as it matches the local feel of our natural whatever, right?
Sunflower seed.
Right, whatever, yeah. No palm trees, right? Like, okay.
Looking at Scott.
Jack, can I just mention, with the chain link fence, the thing that I would point out, when we replaced the fence around Bradley Stadium, if you go along East State Street, you'll see where people have actually cut the fence. So you have to really look at what type of fence you have, because East State is pretty visible and big in here. So just keep that in mind. But I think whatever fence we have, it's gonna be soft with the greenery around it, so. But I do think we have to secure it.
Agreed. Any other questions or comments? Alderman Robinson?
Two things. One, the fence, I think there's a fencing, I'm not 100% certain, but I think there's a fencing that has a rubber coating on it. So if we went with a black fence and it had a rubber coating on it, I think that would look nice, you know, and then it would, you know, protect it against the elements. We wouldn't have to, you know, get the college kids out there to paint it every summer, you know, because it would have that coating on there. The other thing was going back to your slide, as we were talking about the plants, and I remember, you know, just from my house on 14th and Rock City and dealing with the animals and stuff, the one plant there said something about birds. I think any plants that are attracting birds, yes, we want birds in the city. No, you don't want them around the pool area. That's gonna cause a lot of power washing, the whole 9 yards and all of that. I would avoid that. And then second, I do remember seeing one that said resistant to deer. Well, if you're resistant to deer, that means you're gonna attract them. And Front Street is littered with deer in that corner over there. Last thing we wanna do is have them come across Front Street because, hey, they put new food plot in for us across the street with water.
We have to
So-
put deer signs up. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
and then we'll have to put deer signs up, the whole deer crossing sign, you know, so just to avoid that, you know, I think if, there are so many different, things we can put out that will beautify that area and we can avoid those types of plants.
The other one is the goldenrod. A lot of people have allergies to that. So I would ask John, and, because he's a master gardener, you know, if you're gonna have little kids and people around you want something that you're not gonna have problems with.
That's a good point.
And they'll give them a splash pad and the chlorine in there and clear them up.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, I just wanted to give you guys an update on that. Okay, no committee reports, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Could I go second? Second by Alderman Hannis, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, we can jump right into Public Safety Committee. Let the record show all members are present. I can't remember if Gonzalez is part of it or not.
Yes.
He is, so all are present except Paul.
Yep.
Approval of the minutes from the previous committee meeting Tuesday, October 4th. I'd like to make a motion. Can I get a second? Second by Anastasia. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Unfinished business, we have none. Then referrals, we had a discussion on park vandalism. I wanted to jump into this one. There's been some pictures that were posted on Facebook, and we all know once it's posted on Facebook, it's gotta be true. I printed four packets so that you guys can see them, the pictures. I think we've all seen them. There is some, I'm just gonna say disgusting photos. We have parks that we have invested, let's just say hundreds of thousands of dollars, you know.
Millions.
Yeah, millions of dollars into, for our residents, for our families here, for anyone that visits. We want people to come here and be able to enjoy our parks and be able to enjoy what we have to offer here in Olean. And then we have our one or two, you know, maybe a half dozen, whatever the number is, that come along and want to destroy that. And then that alters how we do things and how we operate in the city. And we need to discuss this, come to some type of solution. This one here is pictures from Oak Hill Park. And of course, this has been a park that's been in the paper for the past few years now of getting a lot of upgrades and getting a lot of things done. It's still being worked on. There's some things there that aren't finished yet. And here we have porta-johns here with, people that are just too lazy to walk 10, 15 feet and throw a bottle in the garbage can or take their garbage. And then we have the occasional, drug user, with needles in our parks. Like I said, it's disgusting. I don't like it. I can't imagine if I walked by and saw, someone out there using with kids in the area. I'd have to call the police chief to come help me out. But I would love for the council to try to come up with something, the mayor, the police chief, some sort of solution to this growing issue. We are literally putting more and more money into our parks, and we don't want to see it go to waste because of, you know, a handful of repeat offenders. We got to figure out something here.
I agree wholeheartedly, yes, we do. You know, we've got more and more vandalism that, you know, it's just in Lincoln Park alone with the restrooms there. We'll be shutting them down. Friday will be the last day we'll have them open for the season. Most recently, they're climbing in the window. And, you know, we had one guy trying to take up residency in one, moved his bike in there with him, and the police got him out of there. So, yeah, we've got to come up with some sort of a solution. And I think you have a good idea that we brainstorm on this and see what we can come up with.
Yeah, I'm not, you know, it's so difficult, right? You say you can't have good things, right? You can't, it's hard to have good things. I'm a firm believer that investing in our parks is critical to revitalizing Olean, and we continue to do that, and we're doing a great job at that. But it's really tough to see millions of dollars of taxpayer money go into them, and then we're not doing an adequate job protecting them. And you know, whether I'm still a firm believer that, you know, whether there's a possibility of having a full-time animal control / park patrol officer, whether there's, you know, we have a beautification committee, what about a park patrol committee, increased community policing, whatever it is, you know, certainly, Mayor, I would echo what Alderman Robinson has asked between you and the police chief, if you want to propose an ad hoc committee, whatever, to brainstorm and come up with solutions, a task force, whatever. You know, come to us for the funding needs. We need to make this happen, right? And so I would just second that request to you. This is a priority, I think, for this council and certainly for the needs of the city, right? I mean, the one thing I hate to hear, the comment is when we're going to invest in a park, people, rather than saying, oh my God, that's awesome, the first thing that comes out of their mouth is, how long is it gonna take before it gets destroyed? You know, at the dog park, the one thing that the dogs in the large park can jump over is already kind of broken. And so, you know, this is a big issue for us. And so if you can help coordinate something, I'd be more than happy to be a part of it. Just let us know what you need.
Mayor, I remember 30 years ago when I was on council and you were on police department, we used to have for the park patrol, was it, I don't know what they were called, was it auxiliary police? They were given a police car and they were driving around and they would patrol the parks. And if they had saw any problems, they would dispatch it into the police department.
I'd love to see that get going again, but they're just, the interest was lost.
Yeah.
The last one that was in charge of it was Kenny Crawford. And, rest his soul, he's passed away, but there just was not an interest anymore. When I was on the police department, they had probably 20, 25 guys that's what they did from June until I think it was the end of September or Labor Day, I think it's whatever. They patrolled the parks. They would work from 6 o'clock at night until 11 o'clock. And the parks closed at 10. That gave them an hour to ride around and check the parks. And it was a deterrent for people.
Yeah, I can't remember. Was
They
that
had
volunteer?
uniforms. They used a police car.
I think it was volunteer.
It was volunteer. I take that back. I think the city gave them, like $15,000 a year to use towards, whatever they needed. But they,
As an organization or each?
As an
As an
organization.
organization.
Yeah.
See, Bill, I'm in favor of something
We
like
could
that.
get, yeah, we could get something like that going again. They were, I mean, in my office, I have a hat from one of their, they had uniforms. They weren't like the police uniforms, they were a
Right.
different color. But they wore uniforms, they had a badge on, they drove in a police car, they rode around, they checked the parks, and, they were visible.
Yeah.
And, that they were the eyes there.
And just to have the influence, like the supervision of, and I understand, you know, our police staff, they're staffed, they're a lean organization, but to have someone be able to walk through the parks, right? To not just do a drive around, but to get out and walk through and have a walkie-talkie or a cell phone, whatever, and call in problems.
Yeah.
You know, not take them on head on, but, there's a lot of retirees in our community. I mean, I would fully support something like that. We need to do something, that's for sure.
All when we wit.
Yeah, you know, there's a history of things happening in Oak Hill Park, and part of it is because most of our parks are flat, and Oak Hill is kind of on a mound. So when you're driving around it, you don't see it there. And I think where things are located makes a difference. And I think, and you're right, I think our police force is too lean for them to park the car and go out there every few hours at night to look around. So I think having some, it's hard to get volunteers, let me tell you. Just the beautification committee, we're leading on volunteers as police. We all know that, yeah, Jason can pull weeds in my corner. So I don't know where you're gonna get those folks, but I would hope that people are community-minded and want the parks to be safe for their kids. And I think maybe we try to tap into some of the younger people that have kids that want to go up there and play on the playground, take the dog for a walk. But that park does have a history. We had a stabbing there. There are other things that happened there, but it's the visibility in that particular park that we don't have. That's an issue.
Alderwoman McCall?
Actually, Linda actually said a lot of what I was gonna say, Alderman Witt, in terms of that, because I think when I was walking around, that's definitely one of the things I heard is that, you know, kids are, after school, they're up there using, you know, at night, people are using, and certainly, you know, we see evidence of the syringes and stuff. I do think that park is unique and a difficult thing because, you know, you just can't see, even when we drive around and stuff. I mean, if there is anything that we can do, I think, as aldermen, to kind of put out a call, so to speak, if they decide to go forward with, like, the volunteer group, I think that each one of us know people who are community-minded that might be willing to, you know, donate a few hours here and there to kind of make sure that Olean stays and becomes the beautiful place that we really want and in the future are our focus to be in terms of being safe and
I got an idea that just popped in my head, so I want to mull it over, and, I think if it can, just thinking if it can work, so I got an idea, I'll get back to you.
Alderman Crawford?
So, you know, I'm not one to be shy about tossing out all sorts of ideas, right? But like, I don't know, we can provide them city-issued electric scooters, right? But there's really, I would think in today's day and age, there's no reason why we couldn't at the very least have increased video surveillance and internet. You can have internet anywhere, for God's sakes. You know, what's the cost gonna be? Just give us the number, right? So I don't expect to have it park surveillance 24/7, but certainly with lighting and videos, you know, coverage. My Ring doorbell, my God, it covers, you know, I got 2 of them, covers my entire yard 24/7. So like, there's gotta be solutions that again, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, what are other communities doing? But anyways.
Well, maybe it'd be worth our while to get somebody to do a study on putting cameras along our main drags in our parks, and I think we should add a camera when we put this we're gonna put there have a camera, I think, in the budget for when we put the in the area of the restrooms at Oak Hill. So we gotta start, I think we gotta start thinking that way and give us the extra. But, here's one of the things at the, over across the street, we had cameras, but then you gotta go back and view them. There's no one viewing them. So we've gotta, and the plan is, once the street is done, we're gonna have a hard line coming out of our IT department right over there. So we'll be able to tie that in. We'll be able to, have them, in the police dispatch to be able to watch that area is that. So, I mean, maybe that's the avenue we gotta go. You know, we just, thinking, progression, for here. More cameras, cameras are a big deterrent. So, just some ideas.
I like that thinking. I know, just one more thing to add on, as everyone was talking, that I had cameras and, maybe park patrol or something, and the thought of 15K per year was used at one point. I was thinking, I don't know what a security firm, but I know we have a local security firm here, I think one or two here locally, maybe hiring out one or two to patrol, I don't know.
1,500 was the,
1,500,
Yeah.
not 15, okay, 1,500.
1,500.
That's a huge difference.
If I misspoke, I
Oh, I was
apologize.
like, I heard 15,000.
Yeah.
You heard 15,000
Yes,
too?
we could
Okay.
do, I'm like, we could do something with that.
I know my wife says I can't hear, but yeah, okay. All right, any more questions or concerns on this? Alderwoman Witt.
Yes, I've been getting calls about our little e-bikes that are just flying around. And I can honestly tell you, this weekend, my husband and I were coming out of Front Street. We had a green light to turn to go on East State. There were about 8 e-bikes racing up East State Street, and they went through the red light, didn't even slow down, no helmets, which scares me to death, because if they ever get hit, they're gonna be dead. And the first thing Gil said, at least a couple of them would have been hit if one person would have pulled, it was a green light, pulled out of Country Fair, because it's sort of a bend there, and you don't see it until you're right, and they just went flying. And I just think they're getting out of hand. Another woman was walking, on North Union in front of Burger King, and there were 2 e-bikes with older people, these weren't young people, older people coming on their e-bikes, and between the 2 e-bikes coming and the lady with all her bags, she literally had to jump into the yard where the trees are to get out of the way. And it's getting ridiculous, and I've had calls on it, and I'm sure you're gonna get calls. Just look what they're doing, and the scary thing is their bike tires are about 4 inches wide. They're not little ones, they're wider, and I can see them flying around this winter because many of them use it for transportation, which I understand that. But they're flying, and they're just going wherever they want, no helmets. Someone's gonna get hurt, and I fear that it's gonna be the poor person walking or coming out of a store that's gonna get hit by one of these guys, and someone's gonna get hurt.
Isn't that assault though? If someone is Chief, would you know, is that assault if someone on a bike hits someone?
Not to put purpose or reckless.
And it's definitely reckless if you're on a sidewalk that you're not supposed to be on.
But what surprises me, not one of these people have a helmet on, and it's not the scooter, they're flying. And it's like, not one helmet have I seen. It's scary.
And I was gonna say, I watched them, actually, they were catching up to the car on East State Street. I think they were gonna pass. And I was thinking the same thing. That we probably needed to, like we said, they can't go down on the sidewalks, but I think there needs to be something in terms of rules. I think they can exceed the speed limit, quite honestly, from what I saw, like, they were really gonna catch those cars. And I'm assuming the cars were going basically the speed limit, so I guess what do we need to do to be proactive so that we're not having to be reactive when something happens?
Yeah, I agree.
Chief, the bicycles are supposed to follow the rules of the road, right? As far as pretty much like cars do.
Yes.
But I imagine, what's it look like when it comes to trying to enforce behavior like that?
Well, the problem really is when they legalize the electric bikes, because before they legalized the electric bikes, they would do the same traffic ticket as if you were riding a motorcycle on the road. But now our hands are kind of tied. They've legalized them. They don't have to wear helmets.
to go through red lights,
Yeah, you did get that.
not yield right away, we could take them.
Absolutely.
You could have ticketed 8 of them the other day.
If they're 16 or older.
Yeah.
So if they're 14, we can't write them a traffic ticket.
And these people, they're older people, they're not kids.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen, there's a lot of people that are on the fringe of society that doesn't really afford, and that bicycle becomes a good cheap mode of transportation. Maybe they don't know the rules well, or, I know some of them don't know them, just, there's no requirement for an education on it, and they don't know.
Well, another thing, I mean, they have no insurance on these bicycles, so if you run into a $70,000 vehicle,
Good.
well, they're not required
It's on you.
insurance, it's a problem.
So, I mean, I'm not really, I don't like to talk of licenses for things, but on my refrigerator, I have a Buffalo bike license from 1955 that was somebody in my family's way in the past, and I stuck it on the fridge because I thought it was cool that, even in 1955, Buffalo had bike licenses.
But these bikes are motorized, they're not a bike.
But I mean,
But can we-
these were for bicycles.
But could we require them to register? You
I don't
know,
know about that, but the thought I have behind the licensing is that you have something to revoke if they don't behave, right?
yeah.
I think
And some education with it about
Maybe,
expectations.
yeah, it could be.
Jason, I think what you're referring to, a lot of communities had what they call the bicycle license. We had it here at one time, and all it basically was a registration. You could come, you could register your bike, they fill out the form, you'd have, they'd have your serial number and all that, all the information on it. We gave out a sticker, and put it on your bike.
Oh, somebody found it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it wasn't like you're registering to be able to ride on the road.
I see.
Yeah.
I just think it would be sad if someone ends up getting killed, and then we decide maybe we should do something. Because just watching these guys, it's scary.
Somebody died?
That's not the salt line.
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
Poorly publicized, maybe it should have been publicized better as a deterrent. I'm completely against being reactionary. Like I said about the parks, you're talking about a few knuckleheads that refuse to obey the law. The laws are there, they know they're there, they feel they're exempt. So what do you do about it? I mean, how do you enforce it? There's nothing, we can create a new law all we want. We can say, well, you gotta wear a helmet, you gotta wear this. I mean, for God's sakes, I'd ride my motorcycle here on the highway with a helmet on. As soon as I get the PA, I can ride PA in Ohio without one. I mean, it's our choice. If I fall, crash, burn, that's my choice. So, that part, I don't think we should start mandating. I mean, like I said, with the sidewalks there, creating that rule. The rule's there, people are still riding on the sidewalk. So, to me, it's just reactionary. I wouldn't do it, I'm not for it. I think more is, it's just a matter of if we can get more patrolling, but then again, the chief already said, they're kind of tied. So, maybe we ought to look at what other cities are doing. Maybe that's the solution, find out what other cities are doing and how are they managing it. But unless someone does something egregious, then we're just,
Yeah. The ones I've talked to down in Nikon, we're all in the same boat.
Yeah.
Everybody's having the same problems.
yeah.
So last I knew, we did extend no riding on sidewalks in the downtown business district. We expanded that district. And then I heard that there's a lack of enforcement in the court because we don't have no riding on the sidewalk posted uptown. Is that true?
There's signs that we have to put up, but I think we're in the process of getting some signs made.
Okay. So, yeah, if we could, then I guess if we have to post that. Chief, what is that? My understanding was, what's that interpretation of having something that is posted? My understanding is, if there's a public notice, it's in your code, like, you know, you can still be ticketed.
Sure you can. I think everyone feels that if it was posted, it's easier to enforce.
Okay.
You know, the scooters are all over town. People pick up a scooter, they feel they can ride it any place in the city. If it was posted, you know, that you can't ride.
Yep,
you know,
that would make it
business
easier.
district, yes.
Okay.
Now, Chief, what, I had mentioned before about being able to enforce blatant disregard for the traffic rules on a bicycle, but what if somebody doesn't have a license? Does that make it difficult for you to do it, like,
But you can still write them a ticket, see where it goes in court. I mean, if you're 16 or older, you know, you can write for going through a red light or whatever, you know, they're not required to have a license to ride the bicycle.
okay, so it would just be like a city court ticket, some,
No,
how's that
it would
work?
be a vehicle traffic law ticket.
Okay,
Pass through a red light, but they're not required to have, on those e-bikes, they're not required to have a license or a regular bicycle.
So what would be the charge if, like I said, somebody steps out in front of one of these folks coming out of a store uptown and they're injured? What would you charge that person on the e-bike with?
It really depends on the situation,
Okay.
you know? It's gonna really be a huge civil matter, you know?
What if it's someone
As
that
far as
does
assault, you
nothing?
see you shaking your head, Vernon, as far as assault, I really don't think you'd get a conviction in court with that. They could be charged with it. Honestly, the way things are going in courts these days, I don't believe you'd ever get a conviction for assault.
That's fine though, but I look at it as a deterrent. If I have to take off from work, come into court on, what is it, Tuesdays and Thursdays, during the day when you should be at work, you have to go through that whole process, you have to come and sit in front of the judge and go through that whole 9 yards, and then turn around and you go back and do something else, guess what, you gotta come back again. I think that in turn becomes a deterrent. You get to the point where you're like, okay, I'm sick of getting arrested, I'm sick of coming in, you know, but everyone is not the same though. You're gonna have your one or two, but for everyone else, I think it becomes a deterrent. You know, if you're out there riding the street, they're doing it because they know they can. They know they're not gonna get pulled in here in front of a judge.
Most of the people that we deal with though, they're not gonna miss time from work because generally they're home.
Yeah, so there you go, you have your onesie twosie, so we have to figure out a way of handling those one or two, but we can't apply that same application to everyone, because then everyone else gets on the bandwagon and say, well, hell, if you're not gonna do it to them, you're not gonna do it to me.
Right.
Do we still have the ability to impound the bikes?
Sure.
Take them.
Yeah. But just like Chief pointed out, you might have a $70,000 car that the guy just hit. If he doesn't have any money, he doesn't have a license, he doesn't have a job, that's on you.
But isn't that between the person with the $70,000 car and the ass whooping that person would get for hitting them?
So who's going with this?
The person that owns the $70,000 car,
Then you're
most
gonna be in
likely.
jail.
But it's worth it though, if you have to, eventually something will get done. See the injustice? That's where I get to the point where I go, no.
That's where this is very frustrating
Yeah.
because before,
Yeah, it is
if
frustrating.
you rode that bicycle on the road, one of those or a motorized bicycle, if it was anything other than muscle power, you had to have insurance. It had to be registered. It had to be the same, basically as like a motorcycle. So, you know, we would get somebody riding
Yeah.
one of those electric bikes or a motorized bicycle, and we would give them traffic tickets if they were 16 or older.
Yeah.
You know, so then they would have to go to court for all those tickets.
And now we don't do that, we don't have to do that.
The state took that away.
so what if we look at this the other way? Because I think there's a push for e-bikes to decrease admissions in some of the larger cities and stuff. There's some grants out there for e-bikes and stuff. So what if we looked at it instead and said, what do we need to do? Because, listen, they're not gonna go away, we probably will have more. What do we need to do as a city to kind of have the infrastructure that will allow it to be safe, right? What would it look like for that shared space? You know? Because I think that's what cities are doing. I mean,
But
the
we
flip
have
side to,
bike lanes now, and they don't ride it uptown,
Well,
they don't ride it.
we're moving towards that
Mhm.
with our 10-foot bike sidewalk, shared path. You know, that, we're moving towards that, but, you know, how do you get them to use it?
Right.
And do we want these bikes going 30 miles an hour on the sidewalk?
well, I'm telling you, that one was those two guys were just speeding down. I'm fairly confident I know where they were going, but they were just speeding down the state.
It seems like you're talking off the top here, but it's a scope above a local municipality's level. You want to have these bikes registered or somehow. So what I think what you need to do is you need to bring it up to NICOM, and have NICOM submit a request to the state legislature, and the only way you're gonna get this approved is have the state approve it, state legislature. So it's something that I think you'd have to bring up at NICOM and see what other municipalities are doing, and if this is something that, NICOM feels that's, favorable for cities, they can put a request into the legislature.
It's going to take someone getting hurt or killed before anyone does it.
The culture in the legislature now is that they wanna know this stuff. Remember, they changed the laws to make these, so you didn't have to register these. You can ride them, you know, so that's where the culture is right now. So it would take a culture change to see what's going on. Look at Bailey for it and all that, you know. We'll see where it goes.
Anything else for this committee?
Sorry, we got off. I find it a little key here.
All right, so, moving on, approval of committee minutes, committee reports, we have none. If there's nothing else for the committee, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Anastasia, all in favor? Opposed?